Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one drink that we rule them all. Hope you remember your thoughts. At your Ulu fingers and your Middle guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Usefully rinse till it will get you to come. To the Geek Tank. To the Geek Tank. The Rocky Mountain Geek Tank.
Hi, I'm Guy, and this is Geek Tank. That was a good joke. Actually, I'm just waiting for Troy to show up here. He's working on it. He's working his way in here. I think we've lost Alex for the evening because of fatigue. But, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it, I guess. I am a one-man show. It's like a one-man army. I'm a one-man show. I'm just saying. I'm not, in fact, a one-man army, though. That's a little bit more complicated with a lot more difficulty. So, let's see what we have here. We have an email saying, uh-oh, having to reboot. Well. I probably should send him the thingy, though. He probably could use that. So, podcast. And I will send it to... Oh. Jeez. Aggravatingly. Hey, Bob. There's Troy.
Hey.
Troy's here.
I just had to
reboot
the computer so I could hear you. It did that thing where the headphones didn't want to hear.
What? No,
what?
I'm just kidding.
Who? Where? So, yeah, I don't know if Alex had gotten a hold of you or not, but I got a message earlier. Hey there, Brent.
Yeah. I mean, he sent it to both of us.
Okay. Yeah, closing down.
My biggest problem is I forgot to send the link, but that's not so difficult for you to apparently get into.
No, I just have to get in the studio and then click on the thing.
Yeah.
So,
sorry to hear.
Yeah, I looked at my Gmail. I'm like, I wonder if I can get it another way. And hey, I could.
Yeah. Just because I am trying to do
1,000 things.
Yeah, I've got this. I've got for the homework assignment for tonight. I've got to listen to other students' presentations and make intelligent responses. So I have been listening to these presentations, which are actually rather fascinating and kind of making me feel a little insecure about my own presentation because I think these guys did a much better job, but that's okay.
I'm just looking up this thing that Alex went to and closed down because I hadn't heard of it, but not that I would have gone. Third annual Arcane Vampire Ball, a post-apocalyptic vampire world. So I guess showing up in like a priest outfit with like a jug of holy water would be frowned upon.
So, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the thing. So there's an interesting. I am now involved in history a little bit because a Palestine-Israel protest is going on in the quad of my college, which is causing my college to periodically shut down and not shut down pieces of it. So I think it's actually more around the CU Denver side, than it is about the MSU side. But still, it is still interesting. And they do seem to be relatively peaceful out there. They're just kind of hanging out. The biggest problem that we seem to have is that there is a no camping policy in place on the campus, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is funny because it's a campus. Anyway, there's a no camping policy, and they are camping, which is causing the university to have to remove them, which then they're putting out on the social media that they're stomping on their First Amendment rights, when really they've been telling them don't camp. You can protest, just stop setting up tents in the middle of the quad.
Right, which is kind of like their policy to begin with. So
yeah, it's been their policy forever. It's actually somewhat of a conflict issue with the archaeology department, because there's a couple of things where the archaeology department would like to set up like a temporary base camp sort of thing to teach the archaeology students how to do that. Instead, they have to go out to Dinosaur Ridge or something, which is fine. That works, but it does cause small amounts of, inconvenience to the archaeology department.
Mm-hmm.
But it is definitely policy, and has been policy forever and ever and ever. So that's sort of becoming part of the conflict that's going on, and it's interesting to watch spin occur real time.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're being spun up as, being spun up as, they're trying to squash their First Amendment rights. When in reality, all three of the universities are, because there's 3 universities on the same campus, and all 3 of them are actually saying, no, go on ahead, protest. You're cool. Just stop camping. And it's like, we're good with this. You can keep protesting. Just please stop camping. And, so it's that's an interesting twist to things. I find that entire situation now, the Palestine-Israel situation, is much more, much easier to comprehend now that I have been through some civilizations and, understanding how civilizations work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's kind of the point. Go home at night. That's kind of the thing they're after. Please go home at night. Go back to your house.
There's no one here.
And protest.
There's no one here to hear you protest at night. Why are you staying here?
Yeah. All you're really going to do is make it so that we have to clean up the quad. Clean up makeshift toilets and stuff like that, which is not cool. I get it. I don't blame them. But yeah, it is interesting in the lens of archaeology and anthropology. I get a much clearer view of kind of what's going on in that region, and it is markedly more complicated. I mean, obviously, I'm not taking sides on either of these by saying this. All I'm saying is this is kind of like examining a war from the outside and going, oh, okay, I can kind of see how this led to this, and this leads to this problem, and this problem leads to this problem. And then you have issues here and here. And the saddest part is, I don't know if there's a good, solid way to resolve it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just talking about from the obvious, no, we're just going to have to let them both duke it out. Part of the problem is that Palestine's effectively a tribal nation. They're in tribal mode, which the way that kind of cultures have worked, they started out tribal, and then they go to chiefdom, and then they become a state. And with state, you have government and all of that stuff coming in. And so the problem is that Palestine's tribal and Israel's state. And state is expecting Palestine to operate as a state, and it can't because it's tribal. And I'm not talking about tribal in the terms that are loaded. I'm talking about in the anthropology terms, which means that these are different levels of society and how interconnected and operable your society is.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just titles that they gave to these levels of society to make it easier for people to communicate back and forth. But it's fascinating because that's the core of the problem, is that, with Palestine being tribal, they don't have enough organization to go toe to toe with a state, just simply because of the nature of the two cultures. And so you have a problem with, Israel wants Palestine to control a faction inside Palestine, but Palestine doesn't have enough coherence to do that. They don't have the power. And so Israel is going to hold Palestine responsible for it. And that's probably not exactly fair, but I'm not involved in that war, so I'm not going to make an opinion on that one. But it is difficult.
Well, the whole thing started back in like 1947. It's all been about territory.
Oh, it started long before that. It's been going on forever. The biggest problem is that, that whole area is of varying degrees of, I want to say political development, because that's not a cultural development. That's actually kind of an issue that comes up in anthropology all the time now, is that just because you're a state doesn't make you the most advanced culture. So we learned that with the Harappan society, because they were not, they don't appear on the surface to have been a state level, but they were. But they don't come out in the same way archaeologically. And so just because you're not a state doesn't mean that you're not advanced. It just means that the organization underneath it's not big enough and powerful enough to do what needs to be done in this instance, to toe-to-toe with a state. State usually means your resources are pooled and controlled, so you can efficiently use them. In tribal situations or chieftain situations, it's hard to keep your resources organized. Just like it's hard to, and the resources could be people. So and as far as hatred between the two groups, not going to even really kind of speculate on that. I think that there comes a point where even hatred is overrun by the fatigue of endless death. And at some point, they'll just be like, you know what? Never mind. We're done. Like people just get over it. So, and I mean, that historically, that's what's happened. Sometimes it's taken hundreds of years, though. So, who knows? So, how have you been there, Troy?
Fine. Had an awesome improv show yesterday.
Excellent. I didn't go because I was in pain.
Yeah. That's what drugs are for.
That's what I took drugs for. I had the bare back and body pills. Boy, I got to tell you, those things are great.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, my thing I do when I always check like 20 minutes before end of class. And if there's anything on the floor, I'd let the kids know, okay, we're going to take a break here to clean up, because you don't get to leave until this place is clean.
Oh, I totally do that all the time too. The biggest problem we had was that we changed timesheets, which meant that instead of my normal routine shutting down the classroom, we spent the end of the class plus an extra 4 or 5 minutes just getting the timesheets squared away. So that they were 4 minutes past departure time. And so they rushed out on me. Yeah, because they're back to their old timesheet thing now. Yep. But we had some kids that had multiples. We had some kids that were running one. We had some kids. That's because not only that, it was a class close. And the biggest problem with class close, of course, is that they're all taking the tests. So I didn't actually see that the kids in the back had trashed the back of the room because I had a full class. But after the first pass of the test, the way I kind of do it is a little different. So I tried to get them to clean up, but I didn't. No, it didn't succeed. So that's all right. You got it. It's just hurt my back. That's all. So I was not in great shape when I went to Passover on Saturday night. And then Sunday I worked again for one class. So I was even in worse shape by the end of that. Right. Came home and laid down just like that was it. I just laid there, read a book. I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I was immobilized. Game over. Game over. So we did finish, all of us as a team, did finish Fallout. That's interesting. That was my second time watching it. What did you think of it? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun. I have not played the games. So I mean, I've seen Mariah play the games once or twice. You know what I mean? Like walked in, sat down, watched for a little bit, left, sort of thing. Enough that I knew the character Dogmeat, but that's pretty much it. I really wasn't even sure. Do you play as Lucy?
No, you make your own character.
Okay. That's what I wondered.
And like in Fallout 4, which is the one that I recently fired up again since we watched the show, it has a built-in story, and you either play the husband or the wife, but you choose based on which gender you want to play. And so then you make your character based off of that.
That's cool.
And that way the storyline, whichever one you're not, the stuff happens to that character, and then your responsibility is to follow up on that story. So I thought that was a neat twist on it. What I remember from 3, it's been a long time since I played 3. It doesn't matter. You can also make a male or a female, and the big thing is this: that the story evolves around your father, which is similar to how they had the show, which is a totally different story, but it was still a father and their kid type story.
Right.
I'm not. I never thought about if Fallout works as just an audience game. Because for me, there's a buy-in of the character that you're making and developing. And it's has all kinds of options. What I thought was one of the funniest connections to it is when you make your character in the game, they have what's called the special, SPEICIAL. And so it's your strength, your perception, your endurance. And so it all spells out your character sheet. And so in the beginning with the beginning part of Lucy's part, when she's basically listing off her special stats and scores like she's building her character. I thought that was pretty funny.
That is kind of cool. There was a lot of thought put into it. It's clear, even as someone who never played the games, it is very clear that there was a lot of thought. Brent's commenting that if you have Prime for a week or two after the TV show came out, you could have picked up Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 for free.
Okay. Well, it's past that point. Yep. But from what I remember, it's still insanely cheap. I was actually just jumping on Steam to double check that. They were doing like a big sell on it. Maybe I guess that's over with. Yeah, I feel like I got, because I didn't have one of them for PC, and I went on there and it was like really cheap, but I think that must be over with now, because I was going to say you should get it, but
it's not my style of game.
But it's what I like about it is you can be super sneaky and just like try to sneak up on robots and reprogram them and use them against the other bad guys, or you can be all gun-ho and just go shoot everybody, or you can be Mr. Punchy and go punch everything, or you can be the charismatic character and talk everybody into liking you.
Right.
So I like how it has a variety of ways to deal with situations in it. But the guy who created the game, Tom Howard, was adamant that if they were going to make a show out of it, he wanted it to be true to the flavor of Fallout, and he was impressed with how well they stuck to what he asked them to do.
How flavorful it was.
And Dan, our friend Dan, did a great review where he said the games are all about the hard choices you have to make and the consequences of those choices. And the TV show really showed that, where every character is having to make choices and the consequences of those choices.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it quite a bit, which says something, because of course it's A, not my style of game, and B, I haven't played it, but it still engaged me and pulled me in, and I'm invested in Lucy, and I'm invested in what happens to her, and they did a good job of making the story do here's this one person in this nowheresville out of nowhere, and it evolves into her world is pivotal to the entire universe without that being silly. Like, it's really hard to pull that off without feeling like Deus Ex Machina.
It's another Skywalker.
Yeah. You have a sister. What? Oh, come on. So I mean, I was pretty impressed. That was well done.
Mm-hmm.
You just like Maximus, huh? It's funny. It's funny because Maximus didn't seem to make much of an impact on me until later.
Well, each character has their arc, and and I think it's one of those things where I don't think they made Maximus, and I don't think they expected people to like him to begin with.
Yeah,
they wanted to give him flaws, and without giving away too much, I think it's interesting how through flashbacks they're showing how one character is basically maybe at rock bottom or really low morally on where his bar is for what he chooses to do morally, and then it cuts back to the flashbacks and you can see he has a higher bar of morality. And I think the way they set it up with the flashbacks, it's neat how they're showing him realize how far he's fallen from his morals. And that, so it's neat showing a character at the bottom and then having to figure out if they're going to redeem themselves or not.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, that's and Bob, just so you know, everybody dies in the end.
Oh wow,
I mean,
just like the
spoilers go, I've just got to tell you that.
But then they restart from the last save and everything's
right. Then they all go back and restart.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, one of the funny stories comes from our buddy James, who that was their inside joke between him and his brother. And then one time he was reading a book and everybody really did die in the end. He was like completely like, because that was their joke. Everybody died in the end, That's my ongoing joke is everybody dies in the end, and then sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. You never know. Anything could happen. So, yeah. So that's an interesting thing.
I like how they worked in some of the game things that are just, they break the fourth wall, so they just went ahead and threw them in. Like how you can be nearly mortally wounded and a stim pack will just bring you back instantly.
Right.
It's like that's how it works in the game. So, yeah. Oh, and there's two different times. And these were times when Tara was catching up. So this wasn't when we were watching as a group, where somebody needs a container. I'm not going to give any descriptions of things. And there's a perfectly good sized container right there, but the person chooses not to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens again later on with a different character where it's like, hey, here's all this stuff in a perfectly good container you could just carry it in. But instead, you're going to move it from that container into another thing. And I said, I think that's just a jab at the game because you can't pick up containers, but you can take things out of the containers into your own inventory. And if it wasn't intentional, it worked out for me anyways, knowing the game.
There were a couple of moments where the other folks in the room were calling out, who played the game, were calling out interesting things. So I caught that there were other tricks where it was clear that the writers did this thing or did that thing to sort of, give a nod to this is why you found this thing in the game, or this is why you found that thing in the game. And,
yeah, there's an event where something breaks down and has to be replaced, and that's straight from the very first Fallout game.
Yeah.
Is you have to go out to the wasteland to find this thing in order to save your vault. And so that was one of the people in our group was like, that's from Fallout 1!
Right.
And then when they finally played the theme music in one episode, Nick's friend was like, I was wondering if they were ever going to play the actual music of the theme. But they get a lot of the music that they play that you can hear on the radio stations in the game.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, Bob, that's just awesome. It's like sticking bags of holding inside bags of holding, which is why they had to make a rule against doing that. People would. Yeah.
Just reminds me of an... Diablo 2 trying to put a Herodix cube inside of a Herodix cube.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. Everything just spills out.
Which, that's funny. Yeah, so I was pretty impressed.
So what are we watching next time is the question.
I don't know. But Friday, I will be talking to a buddy of mine in Japan, and so because of the nature of things, it may make us late. So
okay. Well, if you're talking on your phone or the computer,
I don't know. So that's why I said May.
Okay, I was gonna say make James drive.
Bob's over on Facebook. John Boy's coming in on
Twitch.
Yeah,
he's on Twitch, and then we have
Bob's over on Facebook, and so is Brent.
Yeah, Brent's also on YouTube. Brent covers all the grounds.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Brent's done all of our stuff, so he
that's the
pop over at some point in time. And
that's the drawback. That's the drawback to Steam Duck.
Yep.
StreamYard.
That's totally fine. There we go. Now Brent's over on Twitch. Yeah,
StreamYard doesn't allow us to show all the feeds, and so no matter where you are, you see what everybody else says.
Yeah, like Restream will do that. So in mine, in my stream, you see it up on the upper right hand corner. StreamYard doesn't do that, so that's kind of a bummer, but it's true.
And if it can do that, I have yet to be able to find it. Oops, let's try it this way. Make all feeds visible. Updated StreamYard tutorial, how to live stream like a... Well, that doesn't help any.
No, I'm like looking here. We can edit these things. We can edit the layout and stuff. Like, I guess I can move us around. Look at that.
I got select destinations. Didn't move anything on my end.
Oh, well, it's because I haven't saved it yet.
Oh, okay.
Oof. And we'll save it as custom layout number 1. It didn't do anything. I'm like, why'd you do that then? Custom layout number 1. Use that one. Okay, so that's what we have to do. We have to switch to custom layout number 1. We're up here, or down here, or up here. Shrug? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure this stuff out, man.
I feel like I've heard of Chasm, but I haven't played it. Exciting treasure, deadly enemies, and abundant secrets.
Sounds like a personal problem.
Selling itself there. Well, cool. Where is the other guy? Oh, that guy. See, he apparently was really up late at a thing called the Arcane Vampires Ball, and therefore was entirely out of steam by the time this evening rolled around because he did not get enough sleep between last night and today. So we gave him permission to go die and sleep the sleep of the dead.
I wonder if I can get us...
Every now and then people need to do that. Well, we are 1 minute away from what's going to happen next.
From the big event, which really isn't that big of an event. It's just us having our sponsors. But our sponsors are awesome.
Well, now you got to wait for it to come back around. Right? There you go.
Now we have to wait. Because our sponsors, by saying this, I say Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, The Massage Wizard, and your mom. So
yeah.
There you go. We have done that. We've done the thing. Why can't I don't know.
I saw that Geekway Homes was at that whatever convention happened just last weekend.
The whatever thing? What?
There was a convention that happened last weekend, and Geekway Homes was there.
Oh, they were in Cheyenne, though.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like...
I don't know. I just knew it was a convention, and they had posted on Facebook, and so we don't hit as many conventions as we used to. Cheyenne.
Oh, this is kind of cool, actually.
So what are you going to do with all that space down there now?
I don't know. I'm working on it now. I'm trying to figure this out. Like, I've got cool things we can put over here, but I don't know. Seems like this is kind of
too bad we can't actually get the feed to show up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is hoping that maybe I can find a place where the feed works.
Mm-hmm. One of the other cool side effects of the Fallout series coming out is a whole ton of Fallout video game videos are hitting like YouTube and such, showing off all the secrets and that. So there's a whole new group of people who had never heard of Fallout all of a sudden like, oh, what is this game? I would like to play it and try it. So.
Right. I have a media thing over here. I just don't know how to make it work. I'm working on it. I'm hoping that somewhere I'm going to trip over and then put the whatever the thingies are. These guys.
Mm-hmm.
Can I like add it? Maybe.
So yeah, I hit the edit and I see that we can do a thing here, but I don't see how to add the extra stuff.
Yeah, neither can I.
Cancel. Oh wait, cancel. Add item.
Yeah, I already started doing that. I've added a media block. You can see the media block there.
Now, if you could make the media block focus only on the little strip of dialogue there.
Oh yeah, maybe that would, well, except I don't have much control over the media block. Doesn't say much on what I can do with it. Oh, it went full screen. Oh no! I'll never be able to figure out where things are if it goes full screen. Can kind of make us like be along the top here.
Crop solo layout to show background image. Yeah, I don't. It's weird.
Yeah, right. I'm not seeing anything that just says off the top of its head here. Here, have the thingy on here.
Rude.
I'm gonna shrink us down just enough that we can put all three of us up there, and then save this layout as this layout like this, where we're just up at the top and below us we have a media thing in case we ever figure out the media thing. Who knows? Then we can go back to this layout. Shrug, double shrug. Oh, it's like embedded. That's kind of cool. So anyway, lots of people complain about Fallout 1 and 2 being so different from 3, 4, and 76. I think that's funny. Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Fallout 76. All the rest of those just, they fell out. Speaking of falling out, we lost Troy. Maybe there is a plugin install. I don't know. We'll have to wait for Troy to have to reboot because I think he's borked out. So back to the one-man show again. It's back to just me, myself, and I. All three of me. So, yeah, I wonder if there is like some kind of, I don't know, some way to feel like there should be some way to add. I mean, I can add each one of these individually, but I can't do the lot of them, which is part of that. And that's kind of irritating. Blink.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
you made it mad.
Everything locked up.
Yeah, you made it mad.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to find out information you're not allowed to know. I'm just catching up on what I've missed out here so far.
Yep.
Yeah, I ended up never dipping my toes in Fallout 76 because from what I had heard, there was no way to set up just your own private world and only let people into it that you want to let into it. So you could game with only friends. You had to game with a bunch of strangers, and not my style of gameplay.
Right.
And then, of course, 1 and 2 are different in the way that, like, Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2 is super different from what people think of when they think of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Turn-based games.
76 per server. I think that's pretty much appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, as a gift to myself for doing a good job this semester, I'm going to be purchasing a yoke and a throttle quad for my PC so that I can fly aircraft or spacecraft or whatever.
So it work for Kerbal?
Yeah, it'll work for all of them.
So I don't know if Kerbal was actually you press a button and they just take off, or if you actually
you have
fly.
to control them.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why I was laughing so hard at the first Starship launch from SpaceX. Because one of the things that happens if you don't put enough fins on the rockets and they have more thrust than they do aerodynamics, then they will go all the way up and then you will accidentally tip them over and then they will start flipping like this. And you have to destroy them. And so it cracks me up because, of course, that's exactly what the Starship did the first launch. It went all the way up and then it flipped over and started doing this number. And I was like, you need more fins. We learned that in Kerbal. Yeah, I'll be playing Microsoft Flight Sim, and it works in No Man's Sky. But also, James and I are looking into, and I just blanked the name of it, but one of those others, not Starfield games, but yes, one of those. So we're thinking of that.
You should get the 1987 Chuck Yeager Flight Simulator. Advanced Flight Trainer.
I played that, man.
Me
that
too.
Was my favorite frickin' no, it's not. Although Star Citizen might be the one he was looking at another one. I can't remember what it is now. I'm gonna have to go look at it because I bought it because it was on sale at some point in time. So he's now like doing it was like on sale for like $9.99, and I was like, well, okay, I'll pick that up then. So I'll take a look at it because now he's like, oh, well, maybe I'll get that, and I'm like, okay. Then we'll probably play that. But it was a lot more fly around and shoot things than it was, explore. So I wasn't that interested in it until, and Star Wars Squadrons. I have Squadrons as well. So definitely Star Wars is the thing you want to use yokes for and stuff. Elite Dangerous. That's it. So I thought about playing Elite Dangerous. That'll be one that I can play with it.
That's the heavy combat one?
Mm-hmm. It's pretty heavy combat. But I own that one. It's actually installed on my PC. And so that's one. Probably can't use Age of Empires for it, though. Just saying.
Explore a realistic 1-to-1 scale open world representation of the Milky Way galaxy.
Yep. So these are all, I actually really could play quite a few of these once I have been not doing it, but this is the kind of game I prefer to play anyway. So, but yeah, I probably could even play BattleTech with them, with the throttles and stuff like that. I would assume that would be a thing. You played BattleTech the first time back in March 25th, it says.
Yeah, that BattleTech is turn-based.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not the one I'm looking for.
No.
Because it must be the other one. It is not Tomb Raider. I doubt seriously I can play Tomb Raider with it. I'm just saying.
Not with that attitude.
Squadrons, right? Squadrons would be Squadrons I could play. That'd be fun. Probably should look into Jump Light Odyssey. I actually was thinking that one was kind of fun. So Fallout 4 is recommended right now. I'm looking at the publisher sale.
I was actually talking to my kiddo about how if time travel existed, I would take him back to a mall in the 80s because he's really into retro games, and you just can't get that same feeling that you got from walking into a mall and hearing the arcade down the hallway and seeking it out and then playing games for a quarter instead of $1 or more as it is now.
Fair. Yep. Yeah, round one is fun in its own right. It is, yeah. Oh, EVE Online. Yeah, I might be able to play EVE Online with it, wouldn't I? I'd be able to do that. With a controller.
There's some YouTube folks that will try playing games with rock or Guitar Hero guitar, that games that weren't meant for that,
That sounds somewhat fun, actually.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that does sound entertaining. So yeah, I'm let's see, what else was I gonna look for? I'm gonna search because we just said EVE Online, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what was I thinking? EVE Online. Oh, and there's Overload.
Don't know that one.
Overload is a repop of Descent from back in the day. The only problem is we all looked at it. We were like, oh, this is awesome. And like, I picked it up a long time ago, and then we found out it's not cooperative at all. It's only competitive.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I don't want to play it if it's only competitive. All this is going to mean is that I'm just going to be ending up trying to shoot Troy all the time. I don't want to shoot Troy all the time. That's not any fun. This has never been, I mean, it was never fun to begin with, even when I was younger and like, more likely to be competitive. I was never really into the idea of going around and shooting you and shooting James.
Well, that's why back in the old Greenwood, a lot of times we would do everybody versus bots.
Yeah. That's what I prefer, is just go against the AIs.
Mm-hmm.
So much rather have that.
Yeah, there's a place called Channel 3 Retro that my kiddo likes to go to, which has some collection of the older video games. The ones I end up spending most of my time at is Joust and Karate Champ. But yeah, you pay like your $13 to get in for the day, and then all the games are free. And they have multiple game consoles set up, and you can either go grab a game from their library, and a bunch of them just have a bunch of games already downloaded onto the consoles and the emulators. I heard of the one up that's downtown, and I've been there, and that was like a really noisy bar.
Yeah, that's the problem. Was that one that we went to? Where was that? We went to one for one of your kiddos' birthdays.
Oh, that was Hyperspace. That doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay, that was super loud.
Yeah, they all the games in that small space just made a lot of noise.
Yeah, that's a bummer. It doesn't exist anymore, though.
Yeah, well, once COVID hit, that they had no backup plan for that kind of thing, so there's no way they could survive.
Yeah, it makes sense. So yeah, I could see that.
But he's looking into wanting to do. There's now these countercades or tabletop arcades, so it's not an entire video game arcade. I'm forgetting the term I'm looking for. Not stand. I know the guy. Everybody watching this show knows what I'm talking about, and I can't think of it. Cabinet. That's the word I'm thinking of. So it's not an entire cabinet. It's like half a cabinet. And so you put it on a table. And so it just has the half part. So Taryn's interested in like trying to make one of those.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. Having been, I mean, we were talking about this one in a couple of the classes, all of the different weird things that are already becoming obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody even knows what a party line is anymore. People aren't going to know what a tabletop or what a arcade cabinet is. You know what I mean? Like these things are going the way of the dodo quick. And I mean, even now, Brent says that he has the plans for it.
Oh, neat.
So that's useful.
Yeah, our buddy Kevin said he's also interested in helping Taryn out with that because he's always wanted to do something like that. And not that we really have the space for it here, but he definitely doesn't have the space for it at his place.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was trying to, I'm looking up, he was telling me about these things that are basically modern cabinets. And I wanted to look one up. Well, that's the tiniest picture ever in the world. But because we don't need big, thick screens anymore,
yeah,
these new cabinets are like really thin.
That's what I was thinking. You could play like the front of the cabinet, almost like the back of the cabinet's in your wall. You know what I mean? Like you could almost like even paint the sides so it kind of looks like it's half there, and built into the wall or something. That'd be kind of fun. I don't know. I'm easily entertained.
Yeah. On Marketplace, I saw that someone was giving away an entire giant skee ball thing, but there's like no way I can move it. And it's one of those things I'm like, and if IndieK had the room for it in their storage, I'm like, quick, grab that.
Right.
Because it would be awesome for IndieK, but they don't have any storage space for that kind of thing. I'm not finding specifically the thing he was talking about because it sounded like he said it was just one piece as opposed to something you put together. But interestingly enough, the picture looks like it's really old. That doesn't seem like the right one. I was going to keep searching until I can find it.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, every time I've been to my friend's place in Louisville, he has a digital pinball table, which I've seen videos of it, and it looks real when it's running. But every time I've been there, it's not running. It's like something's wrong with it, so he can't show me.
That's a bummer. I love pinball as far as just, I mean, if there was a way to automate pinball so it just ran by itself, that would be so cool. Because I don't really particularly care for the game itself, but I love watching the things do the bumpers and all the lights blink and,
There's some tricks that, because I wasn't really a fan of pinball. And then my friend who's a juggler is like, oh, here's how to actually play and not just rely on luck. Because to me, it always seemed like there's a ton of luck.
Big luck thing, yeah.
Because if it goes down the middle, you're screwed. And so there's these tricks that you can learn to do that helps you feel like you have more control over the game and it's less luck driven. And once you get those down a little bit, it actually becomes a fun game. Man, they have like, what, 10 pachinko machines or something for IndieK? It's a bunch. I'm going to present, share screen, not that one. Of course, now I can't find it. I'm just going to close.
You're like, I'm working on this here, but...
Just close everything, and then it leaves me one choice.
Right.
There it is. Boop. So it's something like that, so it's really flat on the backside. Was what he was talking about. Which I thought was interesting.
It is kind of interesting.
And he wants to make his own fight sticks. So he's looking into all the electronics that he would need for that. Getting into hobbies that I've never was into, so I can't help him. I can just say, yep, that sounds cool. Google.
Yep. Yeah, It is kind of interesting, though, when our kids move into their own geekdoms, you know? Like, geekdom is such a big field now that we really could have, we really do have our kids just off on their own geekdom, which is fascinating to me.
Whoops. What?
So.
Who?
I am running out of things to say, though.
Well, you've started off that way.
Right? I was running out of things to say before.
How about the Tesla trucks cutting fingers off?
Cutting fingers off? This is new.
Yeah, it's I don't know if they've actually cut fingers off, but there's videos of people taking like thick carrots, putting it in there, hitting the close button, and the trunk just slices the carrots right in half. And then they also did it like with other cars, so you could see the difference and how a lot of the cars don't actually snap the carrots off the way that the Tesla truck did.
Well, I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I remember at least one of my family members getting their fingers caught in the door. You know what I mean? I'm like, that happened once at least in my family. I think it happened twice, but I mean, as kids, because kids do that all the time. So that sounds remarkably unpleasant.
I feel like
carrots aren't fingers. I think that the Cybertruck is one of those things where I don't think they were devoted enough resources to it, and ended up with it taking a lot longer than it should have, and doing a lot less than it was expected to, and having a lot more problems than they expected.
So I'm quickly watching this video because somebody took ballistic gel and actual bones and made a hand. And yep, it severed the fingers.
Yep.
So carrots aren't fingers, but ballistic gel and bones are pretty close.
Pretty close.
So it's yeah, I think, what was that called? Tesla Cybertruck versus hand. And then apparently if you wash your Tesla in the sunlight, it dies. Did you hear about that?
Wash your Tesla in the sunlight?
Wash.
I thought it was a car wash. It bricked it in the car wash.
Do not wash in direct sunlight. Caution for exterior cleaning. It's on their actual website. It warns you to not do this. So I think they went through the car wash and then was in direct sunlight.
Oh, it was still wet?
So I don't know. I find it funny.
Short the batteries out. Now, see, that's a number one stupid that I haven't figured out. I mean, like, that's kind of like building your gas car without a coolant system. Like, sitting there going, well, I mean, it worked for VW, and then the engine starts seizing up, and you're like, well, why did the engine seize up?
So there's two things. Don't wash it in sunlight or take it through the car wash. So
just
both of those things. Yeah, don't clean it. Not supposed to clean trucks anyway, right? Trucks are made to just have layers and layers of dirt on them.
Steel. All of the mud just slides right off of it. At least that's the plan.
Somebody says it's basically a wall hanging katana. It's cool to look at, but don't try to use it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cybertruck is interesting.
So I also like the one meme that says it's basically I forget what car they were comparing it to, but it compared it to another car, but with PlayStation 1 graphics.
Right.
Since it's just all the line art.
Well, and that's the thing. I have seen a Rivian go into a pool and come out the other side. Like, they made a dip pool so it has an entry and an exit, but it's 6 feet of water. And they just, to show, because everybody was saying, oh, well, if you get an electric car, it'll short out in the water. So they Rivian, the company Rivian, made this ditch it was just effectively a pool that you could enter and exit from with a truck, and they drove one of their Rivians through it and out the other side, completely underwater. And it was like, it didn't even so much as flinch. So I'm sitting there going, it's not like the technology is incapable of doing it. And this happened. I saw the Rivian going through the water like 3 years ago. So it's not even like it's, oh, well, they're doing it in response to Cybertruck's problems. They weren't. They were just they were responding to the people who were saying electric cars can't handle water. And it's sucky because now that Tesla did this to the Cybertruck, they did make it so that the truck can't handle water. And it's like, well, why would you? I mean, Rivian already did. Like, Rivian already did this.
It says it's good for up to at least 3 feet of water. Is what I'm finding here in the stats.
Rivian had it under Rivian 6, so there's that.
Yeah, and it's like you can even tow stuff through water with it. Hey, the weird thing is their truck looks like a truck.
Yeah,
not that I care.
Really, I kind of like Rivian, and if I were a truck person, that'd probably be where I'd be headed. But I'm one of those people that feels like if you get a truck, you ought to use it to carry stuff. I'm weird.
Well, don't worry. All your friends will be asking you to help them move.
That's apparently what we all do to Kevin. Because Kevin, he's got the only truck in our group.
Is that the Cybertruck from Rivian, or is that the Tesla truck?
No, this is Tesla. Brent? He's still talking about the Cybertruck. Okay. Rivian, the Rivian trucks are just called Rivians. But I noticed that that Rivian is starting to make, they're called R1Ts.
Okay.
So they're going to be making SUV versions, which is at least useful in my book.
Yeah. Because your cargo's people.
My cargo is always people. So, I mean, who else is going to carry the dead bodies around?
Well, dead bodies you can just toss in the trunk.
Yeah, that's true. You could put those in a truck. But that's looking up Rivian, it's that's a thing. R2 apparently is the name of their car.
Nice.
That would be, I've got to admit, entertaining. I'm looking at it looks kind of like an SUV, but it's so it's probably a crossover. But it's still, I think that would be funny because, of course, if I got one, it'd have to be an R2D2. We just call it D2. So I guess that'd be a required thing. So.
Sorry, I just saw this thing. Collector's obsession. Wisconsin man amasses 138,000 copies of the Magic card Stone Rain.
That's why we can't get one.
Yeah, which I guess that means he has roughly $10 worth of cards.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah, interesting things. Yeah, get it repainted in the R2D2 color scheme. Just get one that's white. I know that the next time I buy a vehicle, it will likely be an electric, and I also am being very conscientious of the fact that that may be the last vehicle I buy, because electrics have such a long predicted lifespan, that I may not ever get another car. So I'm poking around going, okay, thinking about this, what kind of vehicle do I want to kind of roll out the rest of my days, so to speak? Because I'll get a second vehicle. It'll probably be a manual and a gas car and stuff that I'll drive around for fun and tinker with and mess with and stuff like that. But my primary vehicle is going to be electric. We've already put in the outlets in the garage for high power. So just plugging it into the garage outlets now, I can recharge a 300 mile battery in 4 hours. So in my garage. So that was the whole battle plan. That was why we built those things in, So
fun. Once again, we end up back on electric vehicles.
We end up what?
We're back on electric vehicles.
I love electric vehicles.
Well, that's why we keep ending up back on it.
Well, you started it.
I did.
This is your fault. It's all your fault, R2.
And I was recently talking to Nick about how all the propaganda against electric vehicles and why it exists and that, and I told him like you could talk for hours on that.
Yeah, it irritates me. I mean, I'm constantly, people are constantly telling me all of these things about
how bad they are.
Yeah,
electric cars on Star Trek.
I don't think I would be so vehement about it if I hadn't owned one and seen with my own two eyes that they don't do any of those things,
Right.
I wouldn't be, because it's just so obviously stupid. It's like, it's so obvious to me because we had one and it did none of those things, and so that's part of the reason why I'm so almost militant about it, is because
that's the hill you'll die on.
Yeah, that's a hill I'm going to end up dying on.
Oh, cool. Well, we made it to 10 o'clock.
We've made it to death. So, there's that.
Yep.
So I guess we probably ought to bomb out. It's all the time we have.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Joe Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
John Boy,
Thanks, John Boy. Wait, good night, John Boy. There we go.
There you go.
You have to say good night to John Boy.
Yeah. Are you pressing the button or am I?
You're pressing the button.
All right.
Because I got to go over to Restream. So
right, the button is ready.
Okay, now you're ready. Well, then you know what that means. That means that's all the time we have for today. Yep. I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And this is Geek Tank.